Welcome to the latest episode of the podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hey!
This week, we'll be discussing the science fiction classic, Soylent Green, starring Charlton Heston and Edward G. Robinson. Go ahead and go to our page on Facebook at the podcast that wouldn't die. Go to our page on Twitter at tpodcast_twdie. Email us at thepodcastthatwouldn'tdie@gmail.com. Subscribe, like on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. And Aaron, I believe you have a personal Twitter account you'd like the world to know.
The Cult of Aaron.
For all your culty needs. There you have it.
I am your leader.
There you have it. So, Aaron, give us the lowdown on Soylent Green.
Soylent Green. It takes place. I couldn't get a firm date. But
2022.
Oh, damn you. 2022. I saw the big book said like 2019, so I knew it had to be a pass. So our near future.
Yes. Shocking how close it is to the reality.
I can feel it. I can feel it coming. When was Blade Runner? That's already passed, right?
I think so, right?
Yeah, I think Blade Runner actually already passed.
Yeah, and so did Back to the Future Part 2, not Part 3. Part 3 is just past.
So Soylent Green could still come true. Frankly, my son goes to the local junior college, and I'm the one who filled everything out, so I get all the email. And he literally got an ad for Soylent.
It's real.
It's real.
Yeah.
Why would a company? First of all, there are few pleasures in life.
Yeah.
There is eating. There is sex.
Okay.
There is sleeping. There's like music. You know.
That's it.
And you want to get rid of one of those?
Yep.
Because I want to sit at a computer and just take nourishment through some kind of weird cloudy drink. It looks like the inside of an android after you cut them.
That's true. If you look at the ingredients, it does not list, spoiler alert, people, however.
Does it say plankton, though?
It does say high energy plankton. Yes.
High energy plankton.
I was very upset about this. So, okay, it takes place in the future. Well, what's the lowdown?
All right, so the world is crap.
Yep.
People are sleeping in stairwells. You're down to like eating just wafers.
Overpopulation. It's all about
overpopulation.
Yes.
Clearly not enough disease to thin the herd. where you can go volunteer to just go kill yourself.
Yep.
Which is probably the only nice thing. Quite frankly, I don't see why more people aren't doing it.
Wasn't bad.
At least you get a bath. You get to lay in a comfy bed if they rub your shoulder. You get an IMAX experience with classical music.
Light classical, not just regular classical.
And I was way off because I looked it up, but I didn't bother to write it down. For some reason, I thought it was like Vivaldi, but it's actually 4 other different pieces of music, none of which were Vivaldi.
Very upsetting.
It was like Tchaikovsky, it was Beethoven, but it like runs the whole season. You pick a color. It looked lovely.
Yeah.
When I died, I don't want an orange light. I was thinking green or blue, but orange seems a little agitating.
It is state-sponsored euthanasia, where if you want to, you can go in there and fill out a form, and they will play beautiful music. They say, what's your favorite color? They sit you in an IMAX room, and then in 20 minutes, you just die.
You just die with a smile on your face, clean. It's the only place that anyone's even nice to you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, there were like maybe 4 deep waiting in line.
No.
When you're sleeping on a staircase and you're fighting over rice crackers, oh no. Let's just all just line up.
Well, they call it going home, too. I'm going home, Thorn, or whatever he says.
Is it like Logan's Run where I'm going to be reborn again?
I don't think so.
Whatever lies they tell you.
Pretty much. Okay,
but
so
anyway,
go for it.
it's a futuristic, terrible world where people are riding, because Tuesdays for Soylent Green, it's the new most delicious of all the Soylent crazy crackers.
Yeah.
I found a crazy website that's supposedly the Soylent Corporation, and it tells you the Soylent Red is the crispy, spicy taste of red peppers with the yumminess of corn.
Ooh.
And Soylent Blue tastes like apples. Soylent Green is the salty taste of the sea, I guess. Except for that, I think I saw a Lee Press-on nail in one of mine, so I
Pretty
don't
much.
know. It could be something else.
It's basically because of overpopulation, the world is a dust bowl where there's no like real food anymore. There's no like people have to sleep on the stairwell because there isn't for anybody.
So why isn't there more disease? Have they cured disease?
So the only food is the state-sponsored Soylent Corporation submits these wafers that you can come pick up from time to time, and that's what you live on.
Right. But when they love the green, Soylent Green, you can only get it on Tuesdays, and when they run out, they riot.
They riot because they're starving, essentially.
Well, why don't they eat the Soylent Red?
I guess
they want
that's
the
Wednesday.
Soylent Green.
I don't know. I guess it's new and improved.
I was wondering, because this movie came out in 1973.
Yes.
Because I think this was the time when we were having all those gas shortages.
Yep.
And you could only get certain, depending, I forget exactly what the rules, but certain days of the week, certain people could get gas.
Well, it was also...
That's what I was thinking, Tuesdays for Soylent Green. So I thought maybe that was along that line.
I think it was also in the late 60s, early 70s, people were very concerned about overpopulation. Like this was a huge thing that the people were concerned about. Nowadays, people don't seem to give a damn. They're like, whatevs, we're good.
I think when you have a fresh war, you start worrying things about that. Now that we're just at war all the time, and we could we're in like how many Middle Eastern countries ready to pop in a couple more? Now much. It's just same old. We like to read about dystopian societies, and maybe global warming's a thing. Now we just are jaded and we don't give a damn about anybody.
It's a sad situation.
It's a sad, sad situation.
Now, what's interesting is that this is really a murder mystery. There is, Charlton Heston plays like a police officer of some sort, and because of overpopulation, he lives with Edward G. Robinson, who they call is like his book, is like the name of his job. Like he does all the research, I guess, on the crimes that he's supposed to investigate. It's hard to figure out.
Yeah, his book... when you're rich and you rent an apartment, you get part of the furniture is having a chickie who, I guess, if it's sleeping on the staircase, you can be pretty flexible with who you sleep with.
Well, I mean, they literally come with the apartment.
Yeah.
These live-in love people. They literally are referred to as furniture. Oh, I like your furniture, was what Charles said on more than one.
Yeah.
Very upsetting. Very upsetting, to say the least. So this highfalutin type, Simonson, lives up in a fancy apartment.
Joseph Cotton. Let me just put that out.
Right.
From my favorite Alfred Hitchcock, Shadow of a Doubt.
Yeah. So he gets murdered. And over the course of this situation, we discover that he was expecting to be killed. And they said, because you've become erratic, is that what it was? It's like
something like that.
Something along those lines.
He was disturbed by something.
He found something out that disturbs him, and now the powers that be can't trust him to keep it together. Right. And he was kind of okay with it. He's like, okay. He's like, go ahead and kill me. I'm good with it.
Let me just say this once again. A crowbar to the head, or go line up and listen for 20 minutes. If you're expecting it, head on over, pick your color, listen to some light classical. I ain't waiting there for somebody with a meat hook to bash my brains in. Bull crap.
No can do. No can do. So Heston is called in to investigate. And one thing that I noticed that was fascinating is Heston walks in there, pulls a pillowcase off a pillow, and just starts stealing stuff.
He was investigating what he could steal.
Basically. Because it's like, an apple is like a rare luxury at this stage of the game. At one point, he pulls a spoon out of his pocket that happened to have a little bit of strawberry jam on it. And they were both, him and Edward G. Robinson were licking it going, ooh, what a rare, delicious. An old spoon in his pocket. Lovely. So he's looting the place.
He's all demanding they bring him the liquor, and he's just wandering around picking up whatever.
Paper is very valuable. He's like, look at this. New paper.
Yeah, it was very strange. Yeah, at the same time, actually investigating as he robs this place blind.
He's literally like, hey, Chuck Connors, why don't you go in the other room and just write a statement? I'm going to be in here laying on the bed drinking the bourbon if it's all the same to you. Good times.
I never understood why Chuck Connors was considered like a hot ticket back in the day.
I'll take your word for it.
He kind of looks like Glenn Campbell a little bit.
Yeah,
not hot either.
If you're 60 years of age or older, you remember Chuck Connors as the rifleman.
I've never seen that. I've never seen that. Yeah. And I'm not 60, but I used to watch a lot of TV.
Good times. Chuck Connors is ostensibly the bodyguard for Simonson, but of course he was conveniently out with Sherrill, the furniture. So there was no one there to protect poor Simonson from the meat hook to the back of the head.
Yeah. They were off buying some beef, which with a question mark. An old apple, a wilty piece of celery, and I don't know, a tomato. I can't remember.
Well, they stole some beef.
Yeah,
it was a big slab of beef. But you're right; it was a wilty looking piece of celery, and I guess some lettuce, maybe, because they were eating a salad later.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Just to show, like this is high luxury at this stage of the game. Charlton Heston goes and talks to his boss, Chief Hatcher. Did you recognize Chief Hatcher from anything? Or do you already know the answer to this?
I do not know the answer to this.
Okay, so yeah, I had to look this up. You might remember him because he was breaking up a chifforobe when Miss Ellie Mae cast an accusation at him, and Gregory Peck had to get him out of jail.
First of all, what's a chifforobe?
Chifforobe is like a wardrobe.
It was like so we're talking tequila.
Tequila Mockingbird. He was Tom Robinson from Tequila Mockingbird.
Okay.
So I mean, that's kind of. I didn't realize he was in anything else, and here he is, so many years later.
So now that we've discussed To Kill a Mockingbird, now the last two movies.
Did we?
You gonna throw in a Boo Radley reference?
I just might. Let me check my notes.
So I will tell you when I taught it, the kids were like, "Miss, this is racist." I'm like, "Yes,
yes,
it is." As a matter of fact, that's why we're reading it. No, it is racist.
It's one of my favorite books and one of my favorite movies. I love To Kill a Mockingbird, but this isn't the To Kill a Mockingbird podcast.
It's all tequila all the time.
So he's the boss of Charlton Heston, and you get the sense it's just like they're wildly overworked. There are murders left and right, and they can't hope to solve them all. So he goes back with this bag of groceries to his little crappy apartment that he shares with Edward G. Robinson. And I read this note where it's like Edward G. Robinson is like bowled over because he's 80 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
And for those of you guys who are under the age of 75, Edward G. Robinson was in a lot of black and white kind of gangster movies.
And
he was the Ten Commandments with Charlton Heston.
Who is this Moses? See? Who is this Moses?
Charlton Heston was Moses, and Edward G. Robinson was, who was he? Pontius Pilate? Somebody like that?
No, it was remember. Like Nathan, or I looked it up.
Look it up. some
He
biblical
was
figure.
like a Jewish dude, but who was high up with the Pharisees. So when they kicked the Jews loose, he had to
Herod?
go too.
I know what you're talking about. Okay. So he was that. He was also the guy
He
who would.
is not Herod.
I never saw the Ten Commandments, guys. I'm
Well,
sorry.
shut your mouth.
This is not
Edward G. Robinson was so miscast in this movie because he's still talking like he's like the noir gangster, except it's like, who is this Moses?
He's you're the dirty rat who killed my brother.
Who is this Moses? I can't even do it. It's a classic line. You have to go watch.
So Edward G. Robinson is constantly saying, like, when in my day we had actual apples we could eat. We didn't have to eat all this stuff, and kids could play outside and all this stuff. So there's a scene where Edward G. Robinson makes makes dinner, cooks stuff up. And this this note I saw on IMDb was like, if people are literally sleeping on the stairs outside his door, eating crispy old wafers, and he's in there cooking up a stew, everybody within 100 miles would smell it and probably kick in the door and take their food from them. Wouldn't you say?
And on top of that, you have this beef to make like a steak, but you choose to chop it up and make an old stew. I mean, a stew you make to stretch things out.
Yep.
That's not a luxury item. Yeah, people would be making a stew out of them.
There's many scenes of Charlton Heston trying to get down a staircase, and literally 400 people are sleeping on it.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, watch where you're stepping. It's like, well, you are on a staircase. Sorry. I'm doing my best here, for God's sakes. So, oh Lord. So they find a reference book inside Simonson's room. Right?
So it's a big oceanographic thing from, it says 2015 to 2019.
Right.
Some kind of something about the ocean.
Right. So, because remember, Soylent Green is made from high energy plankton, allegedly. So Edward G. Robinson, whose name is Saul, by the way. Saul is digging through these books, and he discovers something that greatly disturbs him. Okay? Very disturbed. He goes and talks to the other books, I guess, the other learned book people, and they all come to the same conclusion, irrefutable conclusion, but now we need proof to tell the world what they've discovered, essentially, right?
Who's going to do, and then who's going to do that? Because Edward G. Robinson literally goes home, drops the book off, and kills himself.
Okay, I'm just going to spoil this bad boy. Basically, if you know anything about Soylent Green is made out of people. It's made out of people. So Saul discovers, oh my God, Soylent Green's made out of people. I'm going to drop everything, go commit suicide, where I will become
Soylent Green.
I don't think he thought out this plan all that effectively.
It seemed a little, frankly, it seemed a little impulsive.
Right. He didn't follow it to its logical conclusion, evidently.
Because Charlton Heston wouldn't even know what it was, except a wild hair got up his butt and went after to go save Saul, I guess.
Right.
Otherwise, he would have no idea that it's people.
Because he leaves a note saying, hey, Thorne, I'm going home, which means I'm going to commit suicide, essentially.
Right.
He doesn't leave a note saying, hey, Soylent Green's made out of people, which would have been particularly helpful at that time. No, he just says, I'm going home. So Charlton Heston, because...
Yeah. Why didn't he write a note? Why instead does he tell him over at the...
Yes.
I don't know. Whatever the hell.
This is a good question. So Charlton Heston kicks in the door, roughs up old Dick Van Patten, who shows up, and they open up the window. And there's a particularly, I thought, poignant scene, because I read somewhere Edward G. Robinson was dying when he was filming this. And he knew he was dying. And Charlton Heston knew he was dying.
Just like the ocean.
Right. So when they filmed that scene where Saul is committing suicide, Charlton Heston literally broke down into tears. Like the tears you see in that scene are real. Because he knew it was the last scene that they were filming together. And he knew he was actually dying in real life. I thought that was kind of interesting.
it looked as rotten as his usual acting. I did not sense any realness there at all.
How dare you?
It was as stiff as his cold, dead hands.
Like a doll's eyes?
Doll's eyes.
It was very upsetting. So at that point, Saul whispers to Charlton Heston, because what is it? The sound system's breaking up. He tells him what the story is. Of course, the audience doesn't know this yet.
Yeah, now, suddenly he could only hear it with headphones.
He could only hear it with crazy 70s style headphones. What the truth is. Meanwhile, Chuck Connors keeps popping up with his other thugs trying to shoot old Charlton. Now, let me ask you this. There's a scene earlier in the movie, and there's this shadowy, not even a shadowy figure, he's a dude wearing a hat and sunglasses who hires the local tough to murder Simonson. And later comes and kind of is talking to Thorne's boss about getting him to drop the case. Could you tell that was Chuck Connors the whole time?
No.
I couldn't either. No. It was like Clark Kent taking off his glasses.
Yeah. He must be the genius actor. Because the one thing about him, he's got this total jaw.
Yeah.
That's what he's famous for, the square jaw.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't know it was him at all.
I couldn't tell it until later. It's like they show him without the sunglasses, just wearing the hat, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Chuck Connors. He is a chameleon.
Is he wearing he's a chameleon? Yeah. Was he wearing an ascot pulled up?
The only one wearing the ascot. Maybe he was
wearing like a Habib or something.
It could be. Charlton Heston had a crazy scarf around, like Fred from Scooby-Doo, around his neck the entire time that he kept unraveling, wiping his brow, and then tying it back on. It's very disturbing, I have to say the least. So in the shootout of the Soylent factory, he notices that the bodies, including ostensibly Saul's body, falls into a big vat. And then in the next room, there are a bunch of Soylent Green wafers going down the conveyor belt.
No. That is not what happened.
Okay, remember we talked about improv. Yes, and
you did talk about improv. You tried to rein me in, but once again, I have to say you're totally wrong.
Okay, lay it on me.
He left that building, and then he got on. Yeah, he went outside the building where they were loading all the bodies up in these dump trucks, and he jumped on and he goes out to the factory because there's this line. If you notice, the drivers from the death place didn't cross this line. They moved across and took the receiving trucks back. They had separate drivers that only were in the outside area. Did you notice that?
I did not notice that.
So there was not one person who went from the death house all the way to the Soylent factory. So they never saw it.
I see.
The death drivers got up to a certain line. Then you notice they changed drivers.
Okay. So what was I said that was wrong?
You said it was all like in the same thing. You said it was in the same factory.
I don't think I ever said that, but go ahead. Whatever.
Anyway, so he does get to the factory. Yes. They're like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
I'm going to get to the bottom of this, you damn dirty apes.
Now, thinking about this, like in my mind, I'm like, okay, so how do we make people sticks? How do you take a fatty human and make it into a rice cracker?
Well, they're also wrapped in like a body bag.
That's my whole thing. So they're on conveyor belts. And they plunk into this vat of water. Because now I'm thinking, well, if they made it out of rice, if you ever get those clear like egg rolls where it's made out of the rice paper,
that's possible.
See through it.
Yeah,
most unlikely though. But I mean, then maybe I'm like, maybe they make them like a Slim Jim. But sometimes you snap into a Slim Jim, you can squeeze it and all the oil runs out. I'm like, that's not like a Soylent cracker.
So Soylent Green is made out of Slim Jim?
So there's a huge gap in production from corpses and sheets bobbing around in a circular water pit and like literally 4 feet away, green crackers are coming out.
Yeah. Thankfully, they do not go step by step in their recipe. So I guess we should be
I
happy for
wanted
that.
them to do that, damn it. I want to see. I mean, come on, man.
So evidently, Saul figured out that Soylent Green could not possibly made out of high energy plankton.
Because why?
Because the oceans are basically destroyed. Like there's no plankton left.
The oceans are dying.
Yeah. There's not enough plankton to do this. So somehow he puts two and two together and figures it out.
Yeah. Where was Jacques Cousteau? He was too late to save us.
Very upsetting. So Charlton Heston escapes from the factory after throwing a couple dudes over the catwalk. Chuck Connors follows him into a church/homeless shelter, and they get into a shootout/fish fight while stumbling over 10,000 people who are trying to sleep, pushing over bunk beds onto people. Hey, you think eventually they would get up and move? But no, they're deep sleepers, evidently, at the homeless shelter.
And how come they didn't kill the priest? Because he knows the secret, too.
They did kill the priest. Chuck Connors goes into confession and pops him right in the head.
You're right. I missed that. You're right. I forgot about that.
Do you know who the priest is?
He looks familiar.
He should, because he was in another movie we've already done. You mean his honky paradise brother?
Oh,
that was
Omega
Brother
Man.
Zachary. Brother Zachary from Omega Man. So there you go.
These I assume these are all Chuck brings his posse.
He does.
Wherever he goes. So here we are. Because we are seeing overlap. Because you got Heston and Edward G. Robinson.
Yeah.
We got this dude from Omega Man. So why not?
No question. Now, so at the very end, the cops arrive and Charlton's been wounded. And he says, I've got the proof. You got to tell everybody, boss, that Soylent Green is made out of people, blah, blah, blah. But does he have the proof? What was the proof?
There is no proof. And no one's going to believe him because he sounds like a crazy person. The end.
The end. Basically, that's basically the moral of the story. So, good times. Now, it was based upon a book. Did you know that?
Yeah, I saw that. What was it called?
It was called Make Room, Make Room.
Make Room.
And it was,
exclamation point.
Yes, double exclamation point. It had nothing to do, there was no Soylent Green aspect to it. There's no cannibalism, secret story.
What?
It was just, it was all just about overpopulation. Just how lousy life will be in the year 2022 when New York City has 40 million people in it. So that's basically, it's like how life is crappy in the futuristic New York City. So
what I just do not understand is unless they've cured all disease, how could this be? You have people sleeping outside. The human waste alone this is New York City, where rats right now outnumber people.
Right. They don't talk about that, evidently.
No one's bad. At one point, Chuck Heston, this one bit of furniture has the hots for him.
Cheryl.
And she's trying to get him to stay with her. And he's like, nah. But she offers to let him take a long, hot shower as long as he wants and run the AC as long as he wants. That he says yes to.
Well, the moment you get that Heston stink on you, you can't wash that off.
Oh, man.
You can't wash that off. So you're right. She's like, hey, I know you're 50 and I'm a hot 21-year-old. Why don't you stick around? He's like, no, pass. Hey, AC, fresh shower.
Hot showers.
What do you think?
Oh, my God.
And he's like, now you're speaking my language.
I bet he just smelled like whiskey and old cigarettes.
I mean, that's what he smells like anyway, I'm sure.
Whiskey, high karate, and old stale cigarettes.
No, so later in the movie, she's like, hey, because the tenant was murdered later, a new guy's coming in and he wants me to stay because I guess she comes with the room. But she says, I will give it all up to live in your one-bedroom shack, where the people sleep on the stairs by the bushel. And he says, nah, I'll pass.
Nah. He's like, don't bother. I got stuff to do.
I got stuff. Look, I'm Chuck Heston.
And she's like stunned.
He says, don't fence me in. Okay? Don't fence me in. I got a life to live. You know what I'm saying? Hot 21-year-old. I
Oh,
got places to be.
he's
So it
ridiculous.
was.
Ridiculous.
Now, it could be you could read it as I know I could be killed tomorrow by Chuck Connors, so I'm keeping you safe by living in a life of prostitution for the rest of your days until you're too old and you get kicked out on the street.
Yeah, because he seemed like a real deep thinker, a real altruistic kind of fella. No, that is not what was going on there at all.
Clearly not. Now, one of the most iconic images of this movie is for crowd control. They literally bring
Oh,
in.
that freeze. That is so funny because
Jump in.
that's what I wrote. I wrote that down too. For crowd control, they just come in there with like one of those scooper trucks where they're just like for snow or garbage, where they just start scooping up the people and the arm lifts up and dumps them in the back. More for the factory.
People are being scooped up by these, I don't know what they are, these big, like at a construction site or something, these scoops. And they're just kind of hanging on. Okay, sounds good. I mean, you could just move theoretically, but no, I'm going to, that's cool. Throw me in the back. Let's go. I mean, what happens to them then? Nobody knows.
So they're like, oh, we don't want this goddamn Soylent Blue. Where's my Soylent Green? I don't care. Let the dump truck scoop me up and throw me in the back.
It's a matter of principle.
It's
a matter of principle.
Bastards.
You can scoop me up, but you'll never take away my Soylent Green, evidently.
Oh Good my times. God! Don't you secretly wish you could try it though? Take a little nibble.
You can order it online. I'm sure on Amazon.
I don't want that Android milk. No, thank you. Oh my God!
It goes back to why. I mean, clearly it's kind of some kind of sarcastic move, right? I mean, you wouldn't choose Soylent. It's been around.
Honestly, I think it's been around for 10 years though.
Yeah, but the book was around in the 60s, and this movie came around in the early 70s. They knew what they were doing.
No, for sure they knew exactly what it was based off of.
Yeah.
But I remember watching the inventor, who was clearly part robot. I mean, this is crap for hardcore young programmers with no social life who just need
Incels.
an IV. Exactly. It sells and like a liter soda bottle, so you never have to get up at all.
That's all you need. That is all you need. Good. But I mean,
and it's very expensive.
I'm sure.
I have to go back to it because I think now it's all coming back to me. I think I saw a TV show where it's like this small bottle has enough nutrition for like 48 hours or some crazy thing.
Okay.
Like, oh, that's delightful.
I will not be trying the Soylent Green. They did do, I think I told you this, they did do a Saturday Night Live parody of Soylent Green about all the sequels for Soylent Green. It was like John Goodman was the producer of the Soylent Green movies. And Phil Hartman was constantly running around, Soylent Green is made out of people. It's made out of people. Ah!
You have to put that link on our website.
I got to track it down. There's a scene where it's not Chuck Connors, it's the hired gun is trying to shoot old Heston in a crowd. And he keeps missing and shooting all these people like right next to Charlton Heston. One point, a woman gets shot in the head and screams. Which, that's not how it works. If you get shot in the head, you're not screaming. I'm sorry to tell you. That's pretty much ball game at that stage of the game. Ah! Ow! That hurts! So
I just want to know, they got money for bullets, but they don't have money for Soylent Green on a Wednesday?
Well, again, he was there to cause the problems, right? He was there to, yeah. So there you have it. Soylent Green is made out of people. It seems to me
like the secret's getting out of the way. Interesting, Leonard Stone. Did you recognize him at the beginning?
Who's Leonard?
Leonard Stone was the furniture wrangler, the one who was whacking all the girls.
Yes. What was he from? Willy Wonka?
Yes, that's Violet Beauregard's father.
That's right. That is absolutely right. Yes, he was the doorman. Is that what he was?
He was like the apartment manager or something, but he's done a ton of other stuff. But as soon as I saw him, I'm like, Willy Wonka.
Yes. I did. But he had a crazy different hairstyle. It was very upsetting. Yes.
Yeah, he looked kind of like 60s swinger or something like that.
Well, did you know who Cheryl was?
Which one was Cheryl?
She was the furniture.
The girl.
Yes.
Yeah. Why does she look familiar?
Her name is Lee Taylor Young, and
that rings no bells.
She was famous because she was on Peyton Place in the 60s, but she was also Ryan O'Neal's second wife. So there
does that
help you?
Whatever.
I think that helps you.
I never watched Peyton Place the series.
I'm sure you did.
And who the hell knows how many times Ryan O'Neal, another person who smells like cigarettes and whiskey, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. It was the 70s.
It was the 70s.
It is what it is. I was bowled over because I remember thinking this movie's kind of boring, but I actually thought it was kind of good this time around.
I thought it was kind of interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
You think it's just you're just waiting for 2 hours to discover what Soylent Green is, but there's quite a bit going on in this. I thought it was kind of good. So
yeah, it looked like a terrible place to be.
You don't want to be there.
Terrible.
Well, and that's kind of what Saul was. Saul was like, yeah, I'm good. Enough's enough. I had one foot in the grave anyway. And, when I discovered what Soylent Green was, I'm good.
Well, it's like when you take away hope.
Right.
What else is there?
Once
you realize that it's just this now forever?
Right.
Or worse?
It's a sad situation. It's a sad situation.
Frankly, yeah. The Blade Runner world looks much more optimistic.
It's sad but true. But I thought it was interesting how many famous actors were in this. People who would eventually become famous just kept popping up like, hey, it's Dick Van Patten from Eight Is Enough. What's he doing here?
Yeah. But I think they were already famous. I mean, it was one of these things where everybody's in everything. All the stars du jour.
Right.
It's another battle of the network stars.
Well, and I've talked about this before. The 70s were great because you had big stars from like the 40s and 50s who were like, look, I just got to pay my rent.
Joseph Cotton,
Charlton Heston, Edward G. Robinson. It's like, if you need me to be in your 8 movie, I'll do it. If you need me to be Omega Man, I'll do it. The thing with two heads,
damn dirty ape,
frogs with giant, reptiles attacking people. I'm in. Where do I sign? The 70s were great for that. When people were like, I used to be nominated for Academy Awards. Now I'm going to be the second feature at the drive-in. I'm in. So it's a sad situation.
Yeah, people back in the old days, as they say, they think the money's never going to stop coming in. If you didn't make good investments back in the day, bummer.
It's a sad situation.
Is that the word we're drinking to? Is that the phrase that pays for this episode?
Pretty much. Any last thoughts before we move on with our lives?
Well, no, I thought I would have more to say, but I literally took very few notes on this. It was pretty straightforward. It wasn't overly wacky. I mean, there was like a little glitchy thing. If you notice this, when he was saying goodbye to Saul, the thing where it said you can talk now, the cord was mysteriously jumping. It was some bad cuts. So the cord was like in one direction, then flopping down, and then back up again, and then back and down. But otherwise, I mean, it's pretty solid. I mean, you didn't have any Omega Men, mutant freakies with
mutants,
white contacts. I mean, it's a pretty solid thing. I mean, you got Heston, so there's going to be some stiff acting, a little over dramatics. You damn dirty ape.
This is good. This is good stuff. But
otherwise, it's pretty solid. I mean, there was a lot of schlock going on in the 70s, to be sure.
And Heston was in a lot of it, frankly.
Yeah, and he obviously had gambling debts or was chasing the horse. I don't know. But this is pretty solid, I would say.
If you have not seen it, I say check it out. Give it a little dance.
Check it out, man.
Check it out. So
as you're sipping your Soylent White,
sip your Soylent White. Enjoy it. Good times. Thank you for joining us. Go ahead and go to our page on at the podcast that wouldn't die on Facebook, on Twitter at tpodcast TW Email us. It's just an avalanche of correspondence, I imagine. The podcast that wouldn't die at gmail.com. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., etc.
And I just thought of something. Now, to the good people at Soylent, if you would like to send us some Soylent, we'd be happy to taste it.
And talk about it on the show. Why not?
And talk about it. We're not guaranteeing we will like it because it is that milky consistency of the inside of an Android. But we'd be willing to give it a try if you'd like to sponsor us.
With its high energy plankton.
That's right. Actually, you know what? Oh my God. I don't even know what I was thinking. But here's my commentary on Soylent Green. I've been busy today. But here it is. I don't think it's a bad idea.
I mean, what else are you going to do?
I don't think it's a bad idea. I mean, you don't want, diseased people, I need to be screened or whatever. I assume the turning you into a rice cracker is going to cook out whatever diseases, but why not? The world, frankly, I'm surprised the government hasn't loosed some disease to thin this out. That's why I don't think it would ever be like that here. I mean, disease, naturally, we keep coming up with crazy crap, mutates, and tries to kill us off.
Interesting. You're stuck on this disease train, and yet you're advocating for cannibalism. So interesting.
And why throw it away? There's no food.
Yeah, there isn't.
What are you going to do? You're going to throw it away, have a little service, and let it go to the greater good. Why not? Why waste anything?
Yep.
I have no issues with this. I do have an issue with their suicide because I think you need to have a cool off period. Because I saw Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind, where she impulsively gets her mind erased and then regrets it.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a cooling down period. It's not like you have a fight with your boyfriend and then you get in line. That's it. I'm going home. And then,
well, with 40 million people in New York City, I guess they're like, who cares? Cooling off or not, we're good to go. And for the record, there's only about 8 million people in New York City in the year 2019. So there you have it.
So the population's already down. But frankly, this whole cannibalism thing.
You're in.
I'm in. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
That might be a bridge too far.
We need to promote it.
That might be a bridge too far for me. Thanks for nothing.
I don't want it to be in, what was that movie that we watched where there was a toe? Oh, you didn't see that movie. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. There was like a toe in the stew. I don't want to stick my fork into my stew and pull up a toe.
Well, it sounds like that is what you want.
I want my cannibalism disguised.
I see.
If it's going to be cannibalism, I want it to look as least like meat as possible. Although, I think the Impossible Burgers may be Soylent Green. We're not sure.
As long as it's just 80-year-old flesh, then we're good to go. So
it's like grinding up a Slim Jim.
Good times. Oh, goodness. Okay, and then go to, what is it, Cultivarin to share your thoughts on disease and cannibalism. So,
Ebola.
So thank you very much, and goodbye.
Bye.